I'm Ed Straw, did my MBA just recently, 1971 to 73. I've been a consultant pretty much all of my life. More recently, I've written a book on my experiences and analysis of government called Stand and Deliver, a design for successful government, which essentially is attempts to apply all that I've learnt from the MBA and subsequently to how governments work, or indeed how governments fail and how to make them work. I was a management consultant, middle ranking, on my way up, so therefore getting more into selling consultancy as well as doing it, or allowing the clients to buy, as we put it. And I said to my boss, who was the head of the consultancy, this was at Coopers & Lybrand, how can I improve? And he said, Ed, fail more, which was a bit counterintuitive at the time, but I then realised that what he meant was basically do more, sell more, fail more, but learn from your mistakes, because when you lose a pitch, when you lose a sale, it really hurts. And you want to know, what is it that went wrong? So, best bit of advice I ever had, fail more. The most valuable lesson I learned, sort of similar, but was to observe your mistakes. So I reckoned that I would make about a mistake a week. Not hopefully a massive mistake, but sometimes a significant mistake, sometimes a small mistake, but observe your mistakes and then obviously learn from them. All of us have our strengths and our weaknesses, as people say. All of us do some things right and some things wrong, and just pick up on the things that you get wrong. And I think over the years, maybe I became less discerning in looking at my mistakes, but I think over the years I made less mistakes as a result of that process, but nevertheless I still do. I still watch out for my mistakes. Whether it's the best decision or not, I don't know, but it's the mid-80s. It's Notting Hill Carnival. The consultants are being called in. I can't remember by whom, but this is a time of 1,400 serious crimes at the previous year's carnival, 3 murders, a lot of the money getting creamed off into the local drugs mafia. Kensington, Chelsea, the local borough, saying we want nothing to do with it. The Metropolitan Police would rather it all went away. The government of the day, Thatcher, was not terribly keen on this explosion of sort of semi-anarchic music. And the advice I gave to them, having reviewed this with others, was essentially, A, this thing is going to go on, B, it is actually the size of at least 10 Wembley football matches all at once, and C, and this is the advice, you just need to accept it's going to happen and work with it. In other words, stop fighting it, stop pretending it's going to go away, stop pretending it doesn't happen, and just get stuck in. And I think that single point about its scale and the fact it was going to happen whether they liked it or not, turned the whole thing round, with a consequence that for the next, 25 years, the thing worked really, really well. There were some issues, I think 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure whether they did call in the management consultants by then, but I'd hung up my boots. One of them, which may sound an odd one, is I was introduced to learning by teaching which sort of at the time seemed a bit of a strange thing to do. Well, surely, you sit and listen or get involved in projects or whatever, and there's a tutor or a consultant or whatever. But actually, if you have to stand up and teach something, particularly something that you're not necessarily totally familiar with, then that's a particularly powerful way for me to learn. I think also I've found that the learning by doing, I know it's very obvious, but to put people into circumstances where you have to do something means that inevitably you're going to bring to bear all of those things that you may have collected in your formal educational experiences to the particular issue in mind. I think the sort of summary answer to what you say is actually humility, which may sound again a strange thing to say, but humility and accepting that you don't know everything, accepting that if you took the world's knowledge, that actually I personally know 0.0000001% if I'm lucky of the world's knowledge, therefore I don't know pretty much everything, and accepting that there is a huge amount of knowledge and expertise out there is the way in which I've adapted to change. I mean, I think it's worth saying, I mean, none of us like change. I've been, within PwC and CNL as probably antagonistic to change as any. Sometimes that's been reasonable because it's been crap change essentially and not change that's been helpful. Other times it's been inevitable and it's just something you have to get on with. So my tip there is to sort of go home, have a rant, kick the cat, and then come in the morning and get on with it. Well, it's something that you can't do without. If you're a management consultant, I can remember in the early 80s, The Economist described management consultants as the new witch doctors. In latter years, I mean, I think we then became to be known under other terms which were less generous. But of course, you're sitting there thinking as a consultant, well, at some point or other, businesses themselves are obviously learning, so they're going to have acquired all the knowledge there is, at which point the management consultant is out of work. So there's an absolute imperative if you're a management consultant, but also actually if you're a manager, because if you think about the environment that you're in, it's a competitive world out there and there's constant leapfrogging. So you have to keep not just up to date, but beyond up to date to bring fresh things and fresh insights, fresh knowledge. So continuing education, when I first start, was sort of like, well, maybe you did and maybe you didn't. But for me, it's always been absolutely essential. And secondly, the longer I was in consultancy, it became absolutely essential for everyone. So I've now been to 4 business schools. I've been educated on separate programs by 4 different universities. I've had countless, I can't remember how many sales courses, project management courses, staff management courses, etc., etc., etc. It's essential.